Welcome to another episode of the PayDestiny Podcast. If you have career goals that include getting a promotion, getting a pay raise, and making the most out of every job offer, then you'll love today's guest, who has worked through and overcome gender imbalances at her work to get the promotion that she deserved. I'm Adriana Herrera, your PayDestiny Podcast host and founder of PayDestiny, a new platform for women and underrepresented professionals to access tools to get the skills and confidence that's needed to get the promotion and pay raises and reach career goals. Let me tell you more about our guest today, Dalia Palsson. Dalia grew up in Wilmington, California, where her single mother raised 3 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment. Her mother rented out the living room to help pay for food and rent in high school. She was a rebellious teenager with purple hair and drove a muscle car. Her career goal at the time was to become a cleaning lady and have babies before the age of 18. Then she met amazing mentors who convinced her of a better future. She went on field trips and became an intern at the Port of Los Angeles. Dalia now has a Bachelor's of Arts degree from UCLA and a Juris Doctorate degree from Chapman School of Law. She is now a labor relations representative for the Pacific Maritime Association. Dalia is married to a badass husband who motivates her and has 3 wonderful children who strengthen her negotiation skills. Please help me welcome to the PayDestiny Podcast, Dalia Palsson. Thank you for being with us, Dalia.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And I saying your last name correctly?
Yes, Palsson.
Palsson. Okay, perfect. So to give our audience some more context today, we're going to be talking about promotions and pay raises and negotiating job offers. And will your insights and your lens on the topics come from that of an employee, a decision maker, an owner, or a hybrid of all 3?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let's just dive right in. I would love to learn about your first job, your first professional job. What did you do? What did you earn? And did you negotiate that first job offer?
Yeah, so my first full-time professional job was right out of law school. I applied for and I thankfully got hired to be a labor relations representative for Pacific Maritime Association, which I currently still work for.
Wow.
And been there for 8 years. Did I negotiate? No, because I really wanted the job. And at the time, I just wasn't aware that, hey, even if it's your first job, you can certainly negotiate your benefits. So it didn't even cross my mind. I just wanted the job. I said yes. I signed the agreement. And here I am 8 years later.
Wow. So it's so amazing that you were able to find a job right out of college and love the company to stay there 8 years later. So many of us, out of college, our first job was, let me just get something so I'm earning, so I'm either, paying down my bills or can get my first apartment and, afford more than Top Ramen. So that's so cool that you're still at that company. Thinking about starting your career at the company and growing your career at the company, share with us a little bit about what that process has been like. What was the first moment that you had where you're like, I've been here for some time. I'm ready to make that move to level up. And I am ready to do this. How did that happen for you?
Yeah, so it happened a couple of years ago. I love what I do, and I had never asked for a promotion or a raise. But this moment came when a assistant director position opened up, and I said, well, why not? And so I was at the company for 6 years, and I said, I've been very successful. Why not me? Mm-hmm. And so I put in my application. I prepared for it worked so hard to prepare for this interview, and I applied for it. I interviewed for it, and I did not get it. Yeah.
And so what was it that, so you'd been at the position or the company for 6 years, and that was the first time 6 years down the road that you were like, okay, I should think about what my next step is. And then you didn't get it, but you're still with the company, and you're still growing there. So what happened after you didn't get it, and why do you think you didn't get it?
So after I did not get that job, I was upset. I was questioning my abilities and my skills, like what is it that I am missing? And I wanted to leave because I was slightly embarrassed, right? My colleague got the promotion. He's been there for less time than I have. What's wrong with me? And so I did go through this phase of, I'd like to leave. But I was lucky enough to have mentors, and I was lucky enough to have an executive coach where I spoke with her about my dilemma and my situation. And she walked me through this idea of like, yes, it's definitely hard to apply for something and not get it, but it's harder to stay, because if you stay, you can still ask for a promotion, you can still work hard, you can still be a badass at what you do, you can still love your job. It's just, you got to get past this phase. And so with her guidance, her name is Cynthia Ruiz, with her guidance, I got the courage to stay, and I eventually asked for a promotion.
And then what did they say after you asked for the promotion? Were they surprised? Because they're like, and how long after they denied you the first promotion did you ask for the second promotion?
So I spoke with her right after I was told thank you, but no thank you. And she asked me, well, what do you want? And I said, well, I want to get a promotion. If I didn't get this job, well, why not a promotion and a salary increase? And so we came up with a plan. List all my accomplishments, list all the skills I have developed, list all the agreements that I have reached with my counterparts, list the arbitrations that I have won, and then ask for a figure. And we strategically chose to choose the date when I was due for my annual performance review. And of course, I wouldn't have been able to do this without her, right? Because I have no idea how to ask for a promotion. But I thought, that's genius.
Yeah.
And so I waited for my annual performance review, and I knew it was going to be great. And so at the end of that annual performance review, I said, I'd like to talk to you about something. And I listed my accomplishments, the skills I've developed, the arbitrations I've won, the agreements I've reached. And I said, and I'm asking for a promotion today. And I'm asking for I believe I asked for a 20% salary increase. Yes, that was tough, but I said, you know what? Why not? Yeah. And so I asked for it.
And then what happened?
They said no.
Okay.
They said no. And I was, again, lucky enough to have found this executive coach, and she prepared me for that. She said, they might say no. What are you going to say? And so I just was confident, and I said, well, why not? And they were stunned. Rightfully so, right? Because it's like, wait a minute, why is this woman saying why not? Why is she putting it on us?
Right.
And so they said, well, we need to discuss this further. And I said, okay, when?
Right.
And I was very persistent. And so we scheduled another meeting, and going in, I knew the answer was no.
Yeah.
So then at that meeting, I asked, well, can I have a punch list of items that I can complete to get a promotion and a salary increase? And they said yes.
And then what happened?
And then I completed the punch list, I think within 2 months. Okay. I followed up with them, and I got promoted.
Oh my gosh. And did you get your 20%?
I believe I got 12%.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was still something.
Yeah, that's still something. That's still huge. I love that persistence. But I'm curious, why did it take 6 years?
It took a very long time. A few factors. One, I just really enjoyed doing what I was doing,
Mm,
and I didn't know how to ask for a promotion. I didn't know how to ask for a salary increase.
yeah.
And I was lucky enough that I had so much success in what I do and did back then, that I would get promoted and I would get salary increase. Um, but I just didn't know how to ask for a promotion.
So you were getting promoted and you were getting salary increases, but they were merit based and you were being recognized for your work, but it wasn't that you went 6 years without an increase of any kind. That's like 6 years. So please, anyone listening, please do not go 6 years going
That's right.
without. And I'm glad very much that you clarified that for me,
Yeah.
because I was like, that's way longer than I thought. Yeah, we really shouldn't be going more than 16 months or so. Latinas, women, underrepresented individuals, we are leaving upwards of $1 million on the table over the course of our careers by not asking for promotions and pay raises. So please, please, please don't let that much time ever pass by for anyone who's listening. But I want to dive in more to this initial no that you had, and that the person, it sounded like, who did get the promotion had been there less time than you. Were they exceeding the expectations? Were they outshining you in any way? Why do you think that they got the promotion and you didn't get the promotion?
Yeah, it was explained to me that he had knowledge of part of the contract that we administer that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I thought, well, why wasn't I mentored in saying, by my manager, saying like, hey, Dalia, if you want to move forward in this company, this is what you should be looking at. This is what you need to move forward in the future. I wish I had that. In hindsight, I wish I would have asked for it. But that's what I believe happened.
Interesting. So when we spoke last, there were so many things that stood out in our conversation that I want to dive into, and I hope we have enough time to. You had shared, so you work for the Pacific Maritime Association.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even try and pretend I know exactly what it is that you do, but from my understanding of what you described, it is a very male-dominated industry where often you found yourself being maybe one of two or just the only woman in the room, and also the only Latina in the room. Can you share with us a little bit more about what you do and how some of those dynamics of being the only woman or being the only Latina have either helped you or maybe created some hurdles for you?
Yeah, certainly. Yes, it is a very male-dominated industry. It's a male-dominated office, and it can be difficult to work in that environment. Partly because the camaraderie can be difficult to engage in. But I've been lucky enough to where recently I've asked my managers if I can engage in the interview process when we're onboarding new people. And through that, I have found myself influencing the decision-making of new hires. And so we do have more women. I'm proud to say that we have a new Latina coming onto our team. I know! I was so happy to hear that we had another Latina coming on. Because I've been the only Latina part of the organization for years now.
That's crazy. And I don't want to interrupt you, but I do want to make a point. I am celebrating, one, because of the representation, but two, I also want to make a very distinct note that when we are hiring people who are underrepresented in any profession, we are not tokens. We're not just being hired to fill a seat.
Right.
We're being hired because we are qualified and we deserve to be there. And I think it's very important to note that we are qualified. We bring contributions and values. We're not just a token hire, but it is nice to see another person at the table that looks like us, and that can bring that additional those differences that actually help the company perform. So I'm celebrating all of that with my yes, there's another one at the table. So I definitely want to make sure that we point that out, because unfortunately there is a stereotype of, oh, we're just doing diversity because they're checking the box. No, statistically, if we look at the S&P 500 and the publicly traded companies that outperform, the ones that outperform have diverse work groups and teams, and they outperform by a minimum of 12% profit or more month over month, quarter over quarter. So diverse talent that is quality and amazing equals more profitability, productivity. Okay, sorry, I just had to point that out because I'm celebrating.
No, thank you for pointing that out.
That hire of that woman, and it's not just woman power, Latina power. It is all of that together.
Yes, and that point goes nicely into your other question of how being a Latina has either helped me, or I think you said hindered me in a way, and it's both. Growing up in a household, very poor household with a single mother. She was Mexican immigrant, didn't speak the language, had no idea what to do in this country. But she came with that mentality of being a hard worker, and Latinos are hardworking people. And so she instilled in me to be a hard worker. I often witnessed her face obstacles in life. But I also saw her persevere. And so I learned that from her, that if something's happening where you're not getting through to something, or your goals are being crushed, you keep pushing forward. And so I do believe that I saw that through my mom's obstacles in life. I also started working with her at a very young age, cleaning houses, which is where I got my first career goal when I was in high school. And I also worked with her at a bakery in our community. And so I worked with other Latinos, and I saw how hard they worked. And so I wanted to work as hard as they did, despite my age. But growing up and working in that environment, it has also hindered me in certain ways, because growing up with the Mexican immigrant mother, and we were so poor, we were lucky to even have a job. So I was taught that you go to work, you work hard, and that's it. You come home, and you're lucky to have a home to come to. And with that, my mom would almost yell at me if I would speak up and give my opinion. If I didn't get a break, oh well. If I didn't get paid for an hour or two, tough luck. And so when I would speak to my managers, especially if they were male, she would get very upset with me. And so I truly believe that has affected me in even negotiating for my own benefits now. And being that my managers are all men, that's been very difficult for me to overcome.
It's the influence, right? Like, I'm hearing you say, well, I went for this promotion, I didn't get it. But then I went and sought help to find the promotion. They said, not right now, but give me my punch card to get it. You persevered. I mean, your mom definitely had that influence on you to set that goal. It doesn't matter if they're saying no. No is a position of the moment. I will come back and I'll persevere and I'll make it happen. But then on the same time, it's this, you're just lucky to have a job. And if you're not being compensated for some of the hours that you're, working, well, at least you're being paid the rest of the time. And it just it makes me so mad that that's the experiences that our parents, and for me, that was my abuelita, exactly like what you're describing. She came over as a bracera, And those are some of the experiences that she had, my mom's mom. And but that work ethic still, watching her. I mean, my grandmother worked until, God, I want to say she was like 70 as a caregiver of other elder people, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, no more. But looking at that work ethic, how do you think that work ethic that you got from your mom? How old were you when you were, first cleaning houses and working in the bakeries?
So I definitely broke labor laws in this country. But I believe I was beginning middle school when I would start helping my mom out. I would go with her on weekends, and I wouldn't get paid anything, but I was definitely held responsible for cleaning windows, scrubbing toilets, making coffee for, our employers. So I was fairly young, and then one of the employers offered my mom a job at the bakery, and so we both went, and I would work on the weekends. So I was like maybe 13, 14.
When you were working in the bakery?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the impressions that our mom leave on us, right? Like I was literally 9 when I had my first quote unquote job. I begged my mother to let me go to work with her instead of going to like a Boys and Girls Club, actually, for spring break. So I know that you have a Boys and Girls Club fundraiser coming up. And she did. She took me to work. She got it approved by her boss. My mother's a phlebotomist, works in the lab. And I thought it was the best thing in the world. She was given these papers. She had to draw blood. She would spin the blood, the centrifuges, like all the things. Like I thought it was so cool just to be there. But it was also hard work.
Yes.
With the long hours and working with fussy patients, working in medical care, having to do the patient care plus the medical side of it. And, she wasn't really paid that well for the work that she was doing. But I just remember being like, oh God, my mom's a badass. Like she takes pee and poo and blood, and I want to be just like her. And I remember she even yelled one time because I was getting the samples and I wasn't supposed to do anything. I was a weird little child. But the impressions that they give us for that work ethic and how that comes to fruition as, we mature as young adults, teenagers, adolescents, and then, getting into college and our careers. I want to talk a little bit about perhaps some of the diving more in, because I'm really interested into how you have navigated your work environment to succeed and to get promoted, despite, again, being the only, woman in the room, perhaps, or being at the table. How have you been able to impress on your colleagues who all use the same bathroom and you're the only one using the other bathroom, impress on them that you are just as good, and that also where you finally made that point and that moment where something triggered in them, they're like, you know what, we need to promote her or we're probably going to end up losing her. So what were some of the things that you think that you did and showed that helped you impress on them that you are equal at that table?
Yeah, well, it definitely helps that I win a lot of my arbitrations, which is what we do a lot to establish new part of contract language.
Yeah.
It also helps that I reach a lot of really good agreements with our counterparts, and that I have really good relationships with the people that sit across from the table that we negotiate with. Mm-hmm. And the way that I've kind of abridged that is that when I do have success, I have to really remind myself to bring light to that when we have team meetings. That's one thing that we do have in our organization, is that we have these weekly team meetings. And so we'll talk about different ongoing topics. And then I'll take the opportunity to say, hey, just a reminder, we won this arbitration. This is what we did to win. This is what I did to reach an agreement. And I do take those opportunities to bring to light my successes.
Do your colleagues do that too, or is that something that you just do unique for yourself?
No, my colleagues definitely are more vocal than me when they succeed. Again, it's that talking about myself and, hey, by the way, I just won this arbitration. It's difficult for me to do that, but my mentors and my executive coach have really pushed me, like, hey, this is the game. You've got to play it. And so I do play that, not as much as I should, but I do that.
Basically, you're like bringing to their attention the things that you're doing in a structured format at the team meetings.
Yes. Yeah.
And then what about like your colleagues? Are they, because you said that they're not really doing that at the meetings. So are they just like high-fiving each other in the hallways, or like, I'm just trying to understand what the dynamics are different. And again, I'm thinking about this as hearing everything you're saying. You're obviously amazing at your job. You bring in, bilingual background, like all of these things where I, as an employer, would not want to allow you to even think about potentially going somewhere else. That would be a loss for me. But yet someone's being, promoted who didn't have as much time there. They got a little bit more mentorship to you that you didn't get. So I'm just trying to understand like the dynamics of like, are they high-fiving each other in the hall? Like, how are they tooting their own horn and getting that recognition in a different way because you've had to structure it for yourself?
Yeah, and so I've definitely noticed a difference. Like, for example, my managers would be the ones calling out other people's successes, whereas I would have to call out my own successes. And I've been lucky enough to work with some really cool coworkers that if we're working on a project together, they'll speak up and they'll say, hey, by the way, Dalia kicked ass at last week's arbitration or last week's meeting. And I just want to represent her today. And so I do see that difference where I get called, I get credit from my coworkers versus from my managers.
Oh, why do you think that is?
I definitely see that there's maybe a stronger bond between my managers and some of my male coworkers. They work out together, they go to lunch together. I certainly don't feel comfortable working out with my managers for obvious reasons. And just lunch opportunities don't come up. So there is that little bit of difference.
I know that we're saying obvious reasons, but maybe some people listening don't know what those obvious reasons are. So for you, you don't work out with your manager because?
Well, because I'm a woman, one, I'm married. I don't want to be in a room breathing hard and sweating in front of my manager where I'm wearing a sports bra. And, I would feel it's inappropriate. And, I don't even work out with my husband.
No, I think that's important just to, clarify, because again, it can also be just your preferences. I think it's a little bit of the cultural preferences, or not preferences, but influences as well. I know that that's not something that, just growing up, the idea of boys and girls in certain environments, and boys do this, girls do this, they don't mix doing things together. Like, I think that might be a little bit of it, whether it's right or wrong or any which way, or if there is a right or wrong, I don't know. I don't think there is. But I just wanted to clarify, those things. But I think also when you are, I'm not a mother, but when you're a mother and you have your family, you've got to get your kids up and going, where you have your kids are in daycare, they're in school, you have other things in your schedule that are more important than hitting the gym and with your boss in the morning.
Yes. And you bring up a good point. And I was actually talking to another individual that works in an organization. I don't work with him, but he's in another city, and he's a parent. And we were having a meeting where we all traveled to Long Beach. My office is in Long Beach. He traveled from San Francisco, and people were going to go to have beers after the work day.
Yeah.
And I asked him, like, hey, are you going to go have some beers? Like, no, I brought my daughter and I kind of want to go have dinner with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, I want to go home and hug my kids. Like, I don't want to go and have beers. And he's the one that mentioned he wished that they would have ended the workday earlier. And then that would have given him, and essentially me, an opportunity to go and have a beer or go have some nachos with our coworkers and our colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And those informal work situations that are also kind of formal will end up having that impact at the meeting, where the manager is being like, hey, yo, someone did this and blah, 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 this arbitration, and not necessarily speaking up about your successes as well. And, we can't really say that that's 100% what it is, but definitely it's a variable that can have an impact into those actions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because although it is difficult for me because I do have very young children, I'm married, I'm very close to my mom and my sister, that my free time is dedicated to them, that I do sometimes go to those events. I have to really focus and know in advance, I need to get a babysitter, I need to get my mom over here, my sister needs to come and help with my 3 children. So when I do go to those events, you're absolutely right. You're having a beer, but you're having a beer and you're talking about, hey, Dalia, how did the meeting go? Mm-hmm. And you get to break down, like, oh, I got this amazing deal. Well, what was the deal? Walk us through it. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I went to lunch with my counterpart and we reached the deal. They're like, oh, wow, you have a great relationship with them. That's amazing. Right. And so you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like a tough dynamic. And I admire, especially working parents, so much to be able to navigate that. But even as women, and I was sharing this with another podcast guest, I have made it a rule for myself, just based on my own experiences. Like, I don't do business dinners with people, just because some of the people will take that in the wrong way and act very inappropriately. And I'm like, dude, we are talking about work. We're talking about this business development. We're talking about the product, whatever it might be. And it just has created enough negative outcomes for myself to where it's actually become one of my professional, do's and don'ts. But if it's a woman, let's go out.
Let's go have martinis.
It's unfortunate, but those things specifically, I mean, as a business owner, it's different. But when you're working and building relationships with your coworkers, your boss, your managers, and those relationships can have a direct impact on that promotion or those accolades that lead to the promotion. That becomes problematic, and something that I admire that you figured out a way to compensate for, because you bring up your own successes at the meetings, which I admire so much. So for people listening here, if you're finding an imbalance, I mean, Dalia's giving us a great example of something that's happening in her work where her coworker is getting accolades from her manager, and she's had to speak up. And initially, sounds like it's a little uncomfortable for you, but you're doing it because you need to, because if not, then perhaps another opportunity comes and no one's going to know what you've done because you haven't said anything. So I love that you found your voice and are doing that. This is actually a perfect segue to get into our PayDestiny game. So our careers are made up of individual moments that teach us things, that we overcome, and that we learn to navigate to go from our entry level to our managerial positions, to C-suite positions, or wherever we want to end up in our careers. It's not like we start hey, one day here, and all of a sudden you're the SVP of some company. It just doesn't work like that.
No.
For most people, unless maybe you're the board member's son or daughter, and then you start up there in some cases. So this is a game of instinct. And so the way that the game is played, it's basically a game against the clock. You win the game and reach your pay destiny if you answer these 3 scenarios before the clock ends. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just what is your instinct and how would you handle the situation? So again, you win if you beat the clock. Do you have any questions on how the game is played?
No, I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. So let me pull up your 3 scenarios and I will do my best to make sure I don't miss you up by asking questions because I will want to jump in and ask another question. So I'm going to zip it, just scenarios. All right.
Okay.
So on our marks, we got 3 minutes here so you can see.
Got it. Thank you.
On our marks, get set, go. Scenario 1, you have been with your company for a year and a half and exceeding every expectation. Someone was just hired with the same job description. You find out that they are paid 10% more than you. What do you do?
Okay. First, I call my mentors, my executive coach, and I walk them through what I've just discovered. And I anticipate mentor or executive coach saying, all right, you're going to make a list of all your accomplishments, whatever you have, saved amount of money, specifics, facts, and you're going to request a meeting with your manager or managers, and you're going to tell them, hey, I want a promotion or salary raise, 10%, 15%, and this is the reasons why. And that's what I will do.
Awesome. All right, scenario 2. Your boss gets promoted. They are part of the team to decide who will replace them. Your coworker is less experienced and often misses deadlines, but frequently spends time socially outside of work with your boss and is invited to apply for the promotion. You are not. What do you do?
I don't apply.
That's your answer?
Oh, no, I was trying to clarify the question, or maybe I missed part of the question.
So sorry about that. So your coworker is invited to apply.
Oh, got it. Okay.
You are not invited to apply. What do you do?
Same steps. I reach out to my mentor, executive coach, walk them through the scenario. I probably have an idea or suggestion of like, hey, I'll list my accomplishments, what I've done, how long I've been at the company, maybe compare myself a little bit to my colleague, and then meet with my manager. And depending on what happens in that meeting, if I see that it's negative, then I'll ask for a meeting with HR, specifically because they've invited that individual to apply and not myself. So I can already suspect that maybe there's something up.
Interesting. All right, scenario 3.
Okay.
Work on a team of all men and your company is acquired. The new leadership is also all men. Your boss says they need to restructure the department to fit the new management style. This restructuring includes demoting you, but you get to keep your salary because you've been doing a great job. No one else is demoted. What do you do?
I think same first step. I call my mentor, executive coach. I just got to make sure that my plan, whatever it is in line. I'm not thinking irrational because I'm probably pissed off. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that I'm not going to do something ghetto or embarrassing. And then I'll probably request the first meeting with my managers and definitely HR. And specifically that first meeting would definitely have HR involved.
All right. And you have 13 seconds over.
Oh, wait, 13 seconds over.
Seconds over, but that I'll give it to you because I did kind of ad lib a few seconds in there. So okay. I apologize. I need to be better just zipping it. So thank you so much for playing our Pay Destiny game. It is something that definitely getting value out of. I'm getting value out of. People listening are getting value because there is no right or wrong answers in these scenarios. And there's so many different variables where it comes down to personality, comes down to politics, comes down to things that maybe we don't even know about.
Yeah.
But they are hopefully scenarios no one ever finds themselves in. But if they do, they can tuck it away and be like, oh yeah, I remember Dalia said this. And let me go back and look that up and see how, I can handle this better. And also not to feel so alone that, this is just happening to you. I love what you said, and I really had to bite my lip on it. Not being so emotional or getting ghetto with it, because like the emotions sometimes can, I think they're great to have because that means that we're passionate about what we're doing. But at the same time, those are the emotions, speaking solely from my own opinion, we have within our safe space with our safe people. So for instance, my safe person is my mother, and I'll just with everything that I'm feeling. And she hates it, I swear, but it'll just it'll come out. But that's my safe space. But then whatever my situation is, it's a totally different, non-emotional, very, here's the details, here's the facts, very calm about it. So I love that you said that, because there's this show. Did you ever see Ally McBeal?
No.
Okay, so it's like a show. I watched it when I got I got really, really sick, and I was like going through Netflix, and I watched like the whole series because I was sick for like 2 weeks. This was like several years ago, and it has like that dancing baby, and she basically has these like inner thoughts where she's in a scenario. She's actually a lawyer. And she'll be being mansplained or something, and she imagines like an anvil or something like falling on the guy's head, and her popping it or whatever. And that was something, and I was like, that's totally me, because I'll be in the situation like cool as a cucumber, but in my mind, there's like Robin Hood behind you, like shooting like arrows in your head or something. That's how I keep my emotions in check in professional situations. In case anyone was wondering, how do I keep it calm? Well, you don't really know the cartoon scenarios.
Yes, it popped in. Yeah.
I would love to get your do's and don'ts for getting a promotion and getting a pay raise, because you definitely are bringing to us a wealth of knowledge on how you've grown your career, how you have overcome, certain things of maybe needing to find your voice, finding your voice, getting the additional external resources that are your champions, and giving you that knowledge and path to actually have these conversations. So taking everything that you've learned and that you experienced, for the people listening today who are like, I'm ready, I want this, I'm setting my goals, what are the 3 things that they should do? And then what are the 3 things that you're like, don't do this at all? So what are your pieces of advice?
Okay, so 3 things. First off, seek help. Definitely seek help, whether it be your sister or your significant other, your counselor. I often go to my mentors. Now I'm lucky enough to have an executive coach. Definitely seek help. 2 is have a plan. You have to have a plan, whether it be a list of things or a whole script. You have to have a plan going in. How much you're asking for, what promotion you're asking for, figures. You need to have a plan. And 3, know what to say if they say no. Because, and this is really important, because it's likely that they will say no. And, I was lucky enough that I was given this advice, and I felt like Superwoman when they did say no. And I was like, well, why not? So those 3 things. Yeah.
Oh, I love those 3 pieces of advice. And asking for a promotion is something that most women and underrepresented professionals are just not doing. And unfortunately, the statistics are, when we ask for a promotion or a pay raise, we're not receiving them equal to our white male colleagues who receive them 6 times more when asking than we do. So just that, well, why not, is so powerful and sets you up to get that information that you need, and also practicing that, well, why not? And you built your confidence to be able to do that. So that's amazing to hear. What are your 3 don'ts?
3 don'ts. Don't go unprepared. That's just not sexy. I mean, going in there, just not knowing your figures, not knowing what percentage of your salary you're asking for, it's not good. Why would they give you a promotion or a salary increase? 2 is don't be shy. Asking for promotion is very difficult. It's embarrassing. It's tough. You're asking for more money, and it's a tough conversation, but don't be shy. And 3, I kind of referred to this earlier, is don't be ghetto. Meaning, if they do say no, don't start, flailing your arms and getting upset. Don't do that. Keep your composure, stay cool, and ask that question. Why not?
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love how honest you are, just about everything. But then how your experiences are uniquely yours and extending value beyond yourself. So thank you for sharing them. Thinking about your career, what's your next career goal? What's your next PayDestiny?
Well, a couple of years ago, I went for it and I applied to become an assistant director, and I didn't get it then, but that didn't stop me. I am preparing myself. I would love to become an assistant director. So I am preparing for that next step in my career.
Oh, I love it. So we are going to be cheering you on for that.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask you one question. So thinking back when you first started your career, at any point, whether it was when you were cleaning with your mom or baking or, your first job, learning outside of college, learning everything that you've learned now, all of your experiences, all your wisdom, all your hard lessons learned, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, and only one piece of advice, that you wish you knew then, that you had to learn along the way, and that you wish you just really knew, but when you were starting out, what would that be?
Being a working Latina is tough, but there are wonderful people that will have your back. They will guide you, they will motivate you, and they will help you get through.
So that you have support. So you'd be telling yourself that there's people in your corner.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. And so we have a couple of minutes left. So people want to be able to get in touch with you. What's the best way for them to do that? Is that through LinkedIn or Twitter?
LinkedIn. I don't have Twitter, or emailing me.
Perfect. So we will put that information and make that available. So if anyone's listening today and they're like, hey, I have a question, this is me, something similar, or they just, want to cheer on your career, LinkedIn's the best way. We'll make sure to put that link there. Is there anything that you want to share and promote with our audience today?
Oh, absolutely. PayDestiny, definitely. I mean, the podcast, your organization, it's exactly what people like me need. So that's the first one. Also, Cynthia Ruiz is an amazing executive coach, and she has really helped me take myself up to that next level in my career professionally. And also there's this organization that goes to low income or underperforming high schools and now middle schools, I believe. And they're the ones that really got me to think beyond being a cleaning lady. They're the ones that provided me with mentorships, and that's EXP. I did print out this little thing here. So it's cynthiamruiz.com and expfuture.org.
I love that. You are so prepared. And we will make sure to have those links clickable and accessible with their descriptions for anyone who wants to check out her executive coach who helped her get to where she is. And also that amazing organization that opened up Dalia's eyes to other possibilities as well. Thank you so much, Dalia, for being
Thanks, Adriana.
on the PayDestiny podcast. I can't wait to follow up with you and see where you are, 6 months, 12 months or so, cheering on your PayDestiny. Thank you for being a part of the PayDestiny podcast today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the PayDestiny Podcast, where we interviewed Dalia Palsson, and she shared with us how she persevered to overcome and get the promotion and pay raise that she deserved. I'm Adriana Herrera, your PayDestiny Podcast host and founder of PayDestiny. Make sure to head over to paydestiny.com and enter your email to be notified of future episodes. There, you can also create your own free account and access tools that'll help you build skills to get the promotions and pay raises that you deserve. We have an episode coming next week, so make sure to tune in. Until then, thank you for joining us and be well.